When a person shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Life has a rhythm, a cadence, a truth that rises from the deepest places of our human experience. And one of those truths is that harm rarely happens by accident. The world may try to tell you that people change overnight, that wounds fade quickly, that trust can be stitched together like a torn piece of fabric. But my child, trust is not cloth. Trust is breath, trust is bone. Trust is the quiet agreement of two souls promising to handle each other with care. And when someone fractures that agreement, when someone bruises your spirit or mocks the softness of your heart, you must pay attention to what the pain is trying to teach you. There comes a time in every person's life when kindness must no longer be confused with weakness. There comes a day when you must understand that forgiveness and access are two different things. You can forgive someone and still keep your distance. You can love someone and still never trust them again. You can bless someone with your compassion, yet deny them your inner sanctuary. For the sanctuary is sacred. Your heart is cathedral space, and not everyone deserves to be let in after they have shown they don't know how to behave inside a holy place. We are taught, sometimes from our earliest days, that we must excuse the behavior of others, especially those we care about. We are taught to make room for their storms, their anger, their selfishness, their cruelty. We are told to swallow our tears, to hide the sting, to pretend the bruise is not a bruise. But you cannot heal by lying to yourself, and you cannot grow strong by shrinking your truth. Let me tell you, there is wisdom in the hurt. Hurt is a messenger. Hurt is a quiet knock at the door of your awareness saying, wake up, see clearly, pay attention. When someone hurts you once, they have shown you the limits of their care. They have revealed how lightly they hold your heart, how quickly they let go of your dignity, how carelessly they use their words or their hands or their silence against you. The hurt is the evidence. The hurt is the testimony. The hurt is the part of you that still believes you deserve better. And you do deserve better. Do not let the world convince you otherwise. Do not allow loneliness or fear to tempt you into returning to the same fire that burned you. You were not made to be consumed over and over again by the same flame. You were made to rise from the ashes, to gather your wisdom, to build a safer home within yourself. People will say, but everybody makes mistakes. Yes, we all do. But there is a difference between a mistake made in love and a wound inflicted by carelessness or selfish desire. There is a difference between someone who truly did not know better and someone who knew exactly what they were doing and hoped you would accept it anyway. A mistake is an error of the mind. Harm is an error of the soul, and the soul is what you must protect. Trust is not merely given, it is earned, and once broken, it rarely returns in its original form. Imagine a glass dropped on the ground. You may gather the pieces, you may glue them together, you may polish the edges, but that glass will never be as strong as it once was. It may hold water. It may look similar, but the cracks will always remain, and those cracks will always remind you of the fall. So when someone hurts you once, let the memory of that wound be the reminder that you must walk carefully now, not in fear but in wisdom. You must understand that rebuilding trust is not a requirement, it is a choice. And choices must be made with clear eyes, not hopeful illusions. Too many people attempt to rewrite the truth because they are afraid of the quiet that comes after letting someone go. They cling to the familiar even when the familiar is dangerous. They hold tightly to someone who has shown them nothing but loose hands. They convince themselves that if they are patient enough, kind enough, forgiving enough, they can transform pain into peace. But peace cannot grow in a garden watered by denial. Peace requires boundaries. Peace requires honesty. Peace requires the courage to say, I will not let you hurt me again. Do not let the sweetness of your heart become the reason you suffer. Do not allow the innocence of your soul to be the ground on which someone else steps carelessly. You are not a doormat. You are a doorway to a deeper truth, and the people in your life must learn to knock gently, to enter respectfully, to stay with gratitude. Think of the times when someone has hurt you, not just physically but emotionally, spiritually, mentally. Think of how your stomach tightened, how your breath faltered, how your mind questioned your own worth. That reaction did not come from nowhere. It came from a place inside you that knows what you deserve, even when your conscious mind tries to negotiate with the pain. Your intuition is an ancient wisdom living inside your bones. It knows danger long before your heart is willing to admit it. Listen to that wisdom. Trust that wisdom. Protect that wisdom. You may hear people say, give them another chance. And sometimes a second chance is a gift of grace. But be careful with giving grace to those who treat it like a disposable thing. Grace is not a loophole for bad behavior. Grace is not an excuse for repeating the same harm. Grace is not a shield protecting the one who caused the pain from the consequences of their actions. Grace is something you give from the strength of your spirit, not from the fear of losing someone. When you allow someone to hurt you twice, it is no longer about their behavior. It is about your boundary. And boundaries are the backbone of self-respect. Boundaries are the language of your worth. Boundaries say, I will not be treated like this, not again, not ever. And the moment you speak that truth, the universe rearranges itself around your courage. Do not mistake forgiveness for reconciliation. You can forgive and still never trust. You can forgive and still walk away. You can forgive and still choose yourself. Forgiveness frees your heart, trust guards it. They are not the same tool, and they do not serve the same purpose. People often return after they have hurt you. They come back not because they have changed, but because your kindness made them comfortable. They come back because they know you have a soft heart. They come back because they assume you will open the door a second time. But the second opening is where most people lose themselves. Do not lose yourself for someone who did not care to keep you safe the first time. There will be moments when you ache for closure, when you want to understand why someone acted as they did. But closure is not something another person gives you. Closure is the moment you decide that the truth is enough. The truth is they hurt you. The truth is you survived. The truth is you learned. The truth is you can walk forward with your dignity intact. Let the lessons of your scars shape you, not define you. Scars are proof that you lived, that you endured, that you rose. Scars are not signs of weakness. They are symbols of resilience. They tell the world that you can be wounded and still become whole. But returning to the one who wounded you is like scratching your own healing skin. Do not reopen what took so long to close. There is a kind of love that lifts you and a kind of love that breaks you. And sometimes the person who hurts you claims to love you. But love without respect is a storm without shelter. Love without safety is a fire without warmth. Love without accountability is a promise without meaning. And you were not born to endure meaningless promises. You were born to experience the fullness of love that respects, cherishes, honors, and protects. Do not let the memory of who someone used to be blind you to who they are now. People grow, yes, but growth requires intention. Growth requires humility. Growth requires acknowledging the harm done and choosing to never repeat it. If someone has not done that work, then you cannot trust them simply because your heart is heavy with hope. Hope is a beautiful thing, but hope without discernment is dangerous. You must learn to observe actions, not words. Words are wind, actions are earth. Words can charm, actions reveal. Words may soothe, actions expose. When someone hurts you once, their actions have spoken, and you must let those actions guide you, even when your heart seeks a softer explanation. I want you to carry this truth deep within you. Loyalty to yourself is not selfishness. Loyalty to your well-being, to your peace, to your inner authority is an act of sacred courage. You cannot pour love into the world if your own vessel is cracked by someone else's carelessness. Protect your vessel. Protect your flame. Protect your name. You will meet many people in this life. Some will bless you. Some will teach you. Some will test you. And some will hurt you. The ones who hurt you leave fingerprints on your future choices, but you decide whether those fingerprints become chains or wings. Let them be wings. Let them lift you higher. Let them remind you that not everyone deserves a second chance at your heart. It is not your job to rehabilitate the one who hurt you. It is not your role to rescue them, to fix them, to carry their guilt or soften their consequences. They must answer to the choices they made. You must answer to the truth you now know. Walk forward with your chin high and your heart steady. Walk forward knowing that caution is not bitterness. Walk forward remembering that wisdom is not fear. Walk forward embracing the reality that your peace is too precious to gamble, your heart too sacred to risk, your trust too valuable to give away cheaply. Never trust someone who hurt you once, not because you are unforgiving, but because you are finally understanding your worth. Not because you are closed off, but because you now know who should be invited into your most tender places. Not because you fear love, but because you refuse to confuse suffering with love ever again. Choose yourself, honor yourself, protect yourself, and walk into the next chapter of your life with the confidence of someone who knows their own value. Because once you learn your value, you will never again accept the kind of hurt that once tried to break you. Loyalty to yourself matters more than loyalty to someone who misused your kindness, because the foundation of every relationship you will ever have begins with how you choose to treat your own spirit. When you sacrifice your own needs, silence your own truth, or bend your own boundaries just to keep someone else comfortable, you begin to chip away at the very core of who you are. People who misuse your kindness often depend on the idea that you will keep choosing them before choosing yourself. They rely on your generosity, your softness, your tendency to overlook the pain they cause. They know you will excuse their behavior, that you will minimize your feelings, that you will offer understanding even when they offer none in return. And the more you do this, the more you lose sight of the value you carry inside you. Loyalty is a powerful thing, but when directed toward someone who does not honor it, it becomes a chain instead of a gift. You were not created to exhaust yourself for people who treat your compassion like an unlimited resource. You were not born to serve as the emotional shelter for those who never offer you a place to rest. When someone misuses your kindness, they show you that they do not respect the emotional currency you bring into their life. They show you that they take but do not give, demand but do not contribute, receive but do not reciprocate. And when you continue to be loyal to such a person, you send the message to your own heart that your comfort does not matter, your peace does not matter, your needs can wait indefinitely. But loyalty is not a virtue when it destroys you. Loyalty becomes wisdom only when you direct it toward someone who protects your spirit, not someone who drains it. Choosing yourself is not selfishness, it is responsibility. It is the act of saying, my well-being matters as much as anyone else's. It is the recognition that betrayal does not always come from strangers. Sometimes it comes from the very people you trusted with your softness. When your loyalty to them requires you to betray yourself, it is no longer loyalty, it is self-abandonment. And self-abandonment is the slowest form of heartbreak, the kind that takes root quietly and grows silently, until you can barely recognize the person you once were. When you give too much to someone who misuses your kindness, your inner voice begins to dim. You stop speaking what you need. You stop asking for care. You stop expecting fairness. You begin to shrink so they can remain large in your life. But shrinking is not living. Shrinking is survival. The truth is, some people only value you as long as you are easy to use. The moment you stand up for yourself, the moment you place a boundary, the moment you say no more, they call you difficult, selfish, dramatic, or ungrateful. But their reaction is simply the sound of entitlement cracking. They are not angry because you changed. They are angry because you stopped allowing them to benefit from your silence. Someone who misuses your kindness depends heavily on your inability to walk away. They want your loyalty to them to outweigh your loyalty to your own dignity. They want you to believe that kindness means enduring the mistreatment they offer. But real kindness includes kindness toward yourself. Real loyalty includes loyalty to your own heart. And real love includes loving yourself enough to not let anyone diminish you. When you choose yourself, you reclaim power that was quietly taken from you. You begin to hear your own voice again, the one that tells you what feels wrong, what feels unfair, what feels harmful. You begin to realize that not everyone deserves the closeness you offer so easily. You begin to recognize the emotional cost of keeping someone in your life who does not honor your goodness. You start to see how much weight you have carried just to keep the peace, just to avoid conflict, just to protect someone else's comfort. But your comfort matters too. Your peace matters too. your joy matters too. And the moment you decide that your needs deserve a place in your own life, you break the invisible contract of self-neglect that was silently written through years of being overly loyal to the wrong people. Loyalty to yourself teaches others how to treat you. It communicates that your kindness is a gift, not an entitlement. It shows that your generosity has boundaries, that your heart is precious, that your presence is earned, not assumed. People who misuse your kindness often change their behavior the moment they realize you are no longer available to be taken for granted. They suddenly begin to value what they once dismissed. But loyalty to yourself means you no longer wait for their recognition to validate your worth. It means you no longer measure your value by how much someone else needs you. It means you finally understand that your life is too important to be spent proving your loyalty to someone who never proved theirs. And when you finally put yourself first, something remarkable happens. The weight you carried begins to lift. The fog you lived in begins to clear. The exhaustion that felt normal begins to fade. You are no longer bending to fit into spaces that were too small for your spirit. You are no longer apologizing for wanting respect. You are no longer offering your soul to someone who only wanted your usefulness. You start to breathe again, deeply, freely, fully. You start to exist for yourself, not for someone else's comfort. You start to honor your feelings instead of burying them. And step by step, you begin to rebuild a self that was quietly disappearing. Your kindness is a gift, but it is not meant for abuse. Your loyalty is an honor, but it is not meant for exploitation. And your heart is a sacred space, meant to be held with care, not carelessness. When someone shows you they cannot be trusted with your kindness, the most powerful thing you can do is place your loyalty back where it belongs, with yourself. Forgiveness is a quiet power that lives within the human soul, a gift you give not to the one who hurt you but to yourself, a release from the chains of anger, resentment, and bitterness that weigh down the spirit. When someone causes you pain, the instinct is often to hold on, to replay the moment, to imagine what could have been done differently, to blame yourself or them. But forgiveness is the moment you step out cycle and declare that you will no longer be imprisoned by someone else's actions. Forgiveness is a choice to let go of the weight, a decision to breathe freely again, a way to untangle your heart from the knot of injury that once held it captive. But it does not mean that the harm disappears, and it does not mean that trust is restored. Trust, unlike forgiveness, is not granted lightly. Trust is earned, and once it has been broken, the scar remains as a reminder that you must proceed with caution. To honor that reason is to honor yourself. When someone betrays your trust, the pain is not merely in the act itself, but in the revelation of their character. The hurt is a signal, a message from life telling you that this person may not be safe for your heart, that their actions have consequences that echo beyond the immediate moment. Forgiveness allows you to release the bitterness that could fester, but the memory of their breach remains. Trust is a fragile vessel, and once cracked, it cannot be filled with the same water it once held. To pretend otherwise is to deceive yourself and to risk the same pain repeating. When you forgive but choose not to trust, you are not being unkind, you are being wise. You are listening to the inner voice that has always guided you, the one that knows the value of your heart and the sacredness of your peace. The reason trust stays broken is not a punishment for the other person. It is a protection for you. It is the armor that shields your spirit from being wounded again in the same way. Every broken trust is a lesson wrapped in pain, a signal from your own soul that this person may not honor your vulnerability, that they may not respect the boundaries you need to remain whole. When you honor the reason trust was broken, you honor your own experience. You acknowledge that your pain is real, that your instincts are valid, that your heart deserves care and consideration. Forgiveness is the act of kindness you give to yourself so that the past does not dictate your present in a toxic cycle of hurt. But trust is the framework within which your heart chooses its companions carefully. We live in a world where words are cheap and promises are often broken, where people say what we want to hear but act in ways that betray our faith in them. And in those moments, forgiveness becomes necessary because holding on to anger will only drain you, only weigh you down. Yet even after you forgive, your heart remembers. The memory of the betrayal is etched into your spirit like a river carving through stone, a permanent mark that shapes the landscape of your relationships. To honor that mark is to honor yourself. It is a declaration that your heart is precious and will not be exposed recklessly again. It is the wisdom of knowing that forgiving does not require forgetting, and it does not require restoring a connection that has proven unsafe. Forgiveness is not a gift to be used as a weapon or as a ticket for someone else's absolution. It is not a magic eraser that wipes away consequences. It is a deliberate act that frees your spirit from the grip of pain. When you forgive, you release the toxic energy that comes from resentment. You allow your mind to rest and your heart to breathe. But trust is earned anew. Trust cannot be bought with words or excuses or hollow apologies. It must be demonstrated through consistent, respectful, and loving behavior over time. And until that demonstration occurs, the choice to withhold trust is not a cruelty. It is an act of wisdom, an act of self-respect, an act of survival. People will often confuse forgiveness with weakness. They will claim that if you forgive, you must also forget and trust again. But this is a misunderstanding of the true nature of forgiveness. Forgiveness is strength, a conscious decision to reclaim your power. It does not require you to lower your guard or to reopen your heart to someone who has shown they do not respect it. In fact, the truest form of forgiveness often comes with boundaries, with clarity, with a commitment to protect yourself from future harm. Trust, once broken, is a reminder that the lessons of the past should guide the choices of the future. To honor the reason trust was broken is to honor the lessons you have learned, the wisdom you have gathered, and the resilience you have built. When you forgive, you acknowledge that people are human, that they make mistakes, that they may act out of fear, ignorance, or weakness. But you also acknowledge that your heart is sacred, that your spirit cannot be traded for someone else's convenience, and that your peace is non-negotiable. Forgiveness allows compassion to flourish in your soul, but trust is the framework that ensures that compassion does not make you vulnerable to repeated harm. It is the delicate balance between openness and discernment, between love and self-protection, between generosity and vigilance. Honoring the reason trust was broken is the recognition that your forgiveness is not a blank check. It is a gift wrapped in wisdom and awareness. There will be people who return after they have hurt you, asking for your trust again, offering apologies, showing remorse. And forgiveness allows you to release resentment toward them, to let go of the heaviness of the past. But the decision to trust again is yours and yours alone. It requires careful observation, patience, and reflection. It requires paying attention to actions rather than words, to consistency rather than charm, to respect rather than need. When trust was broken once, the memory of that break acts as a guidepost, a compass pointing towards safety and integrity. To ignore it is to risk repeating the cycle. To honor it is to safeguard your soul. Forgiveness is liberating because it removes the burden of bitterness from your shoulders, because it allows you to move forward without carrying the weight of what was done to you. But trust is deliberate, intentional, and selective. It is the soil in which future relationships can grow, the foundation upon which respect and loyalty are built. When you honor the reason trust was broken, you affirm the lessons of your life and the intelligence of your spirit. You declare that your heart is not a playground for carelessness, that your vulnerability is not a tool to be exploited, that your peace is a treasure worth protecting. Forgiveness without discernment can leave you exposed. Forgiveness paired with honor of broken trust creates wisdom, resilience, and clarity. To honor the reason trust was broken is to value your experience. It is to recognize that your feelings are valid, that your instincts are accurate, and that your spirit deserves protection. It is to move forward with open eyes, not blind hope. It is to love yourself enough to demand integrity from those around you. Forgiveness frees you, yes, but trust remains a measure of reality, a reflection of how someone treats you in both words and deeds. And when you honor that reason, you honor the intelligence of your heart and the sacredness of your boundaries. Forgiveness allows your heart to heal. It allows your spirit to release the grip of the past. It allows you to walk forward without bitterness. But trust is a different currency. Trust is the quiet knowledge that someone can be counted on, that they will not wound you the way they did before, that they respect the boundaries that protect your soul. And when trust has been broken, to honor the reason is to honor your own survival, your own dignity, your own worth. It is a reminder that your heart is precious, that your kindness is valuable, that your soul deserves care, respect, and reverence. An apology can be a soft word, a gentle sigh, a trembling admission, but it is not always the reflection of change. The lips may form the sound of regret, but the soul may remain untouched. Many people speak the language of apology as if it can erase the past, as if the spoken words themselves are enough to cleanse the wounds they have inflicted. And yet the heart knows the truth. The heart remembers not only the words, but the intent behind them, the consistency of character and the actions that follow. To apologize is easy. To honor the responsibility of the heart is much harder. Some may bow their heads, look at you with teary eyes, speak of sorrow and repentance, and yet their lives may continue to disregard the pain they caused. The weight of that recognition rests upon you, for your heart cannot be fooled by the sound of words alone. It is a natural instinct to want to believe the apology, to soften, to forgive, to hope. We long for reconciliation because the human spirit seeks connection, because loneliness is a heavy companion, because love is a fire that refuses to die even when smoke fills the room. But hope must be tempered by discernment, by careful observation, by the quiet listening that tells you whether the person before you is truly ready to carry the responsibility that comes with holding your heart. An apology is not a guarantee. It is not a promise. It is not the beginning of restored trust, unless it is followed by a deliberate and consistent effort to honor your feelings, respect your boundaries, and act with integrity. Without that, the apology is little more than a sound, empty and fragile, a whisper against the wind of the damage that has already been done. Many people mistake remorse for readiness. They believe that tears or confessions signal a transformation that may not yet exist. But readiness is not measured by emotion alone. Readiness is shown in action, in patience, in humility, in the willingness to step aside from one's own desires to ensure the safety, comfort, and dignity of another. Not everyone who apologizes understands that an apology without accountability is hollow. An apology without change is a costume worn over the same old habits, a mask that hides the unacknowledged flaws, a temporary gesture that does not alter the way one interacts with your spirit. And the responsibility of your heart is sacred. It cannot be placed in hands that are not steady, eyes that are not honest, and intentions that are not sincere. When someone hurts you, it is not only the act itself that leaves its mark, but the exposure of your trust, the vulnerability you extended, the openness you offered. An apology may attempt to smooth the surface, to soothe the sting, but your heart remembers the exposure, the disregard, the breach. To honor the responsibility of your heart requires a level of awareness and maturity that not everyone possesses. Some will apologize because it is socially expected, because they feel guilt, because they wish to stop conflict, because they desire your forgiveness as a shield for their conscience. But these motivations do not equate to true readiness. True readiness emerges when someone demonstrates a conscious commitment to not repeat the harm, to recognize the weight of their actions, to carry the care of your heart as delicately as they would carry their own. Many people are content to speak words without embodying them. They will tell you they are sorry. They will promise change. They will kneel before you with all the theatricality of contrition. But their follow-through is absent. Their apologies may even manipulate, appealing to your kindness, your empathy, your desire for peace as a means to gain comfort for themselves. And if you are not vigilant, you may find yourself giving them access again, trusting again, only to find that nothing has changed and the cycle begins anew. That is why it is essential to recognize that not every apology signals a readiness to bear the responsibility your heart demands. The voice of your intuition, the memory of the harm, and the quiet knowledge of your own worth are your truest guides in these moments. Forgiveness is a gift, but discernment is armor. You can forgive someone for their mistake, for their thoughtlessness, for their failure to honor you in the moment, and still withhold the deepest trust your heart has to give. You can offer compassion without offering vulnerability. You can offer understanding without granting unrestricted access. And in doing so, you honor the sacredness of your own heart while still allowing for the possibility of growth, change, and genuine accountability. Not everyone will rise to meet this opportunity. Some will remain trapped in the patterns that caused the initial pain, unwilling or unable to embrace the responsibility their actions demand. And it is in recognizing that truth that you safeguard yourself from further harm. An apology is the first step, but it is not the final measure. Readiness is demonstrated over time, through consistent choices that align with words. It is proven in the daily acts of care, respect, and attentiveness. It is shown in the patience to rebuild trust slowly, in the humility to admit repeated mistakes without deflecting blame, in the sincerity to prioritize your well-being alongside their own. Many people are unwilling to undertake this labor. Many people apologize to stop the discomfort, to regain their comfort, or to manipulate forgiveness as a tool for convenience. But your heart deserves more than convenience. It deserves responsibility, accountability, and true readiness to respect its depth, fragility, and value. To honor your own heart is to recognize that words alone are insufficient. It is to understand that your spirit is not a token to be exchanged lightly, that your trust is not an obligation to be granted automatically, and that your forgiveness does not demand a return to the same vulnerability that once left you wounded. To honor your heart is to watch actions more than listen to words, to measure consistency more than intention, to trust demonstration more than apology. It is the realization that your worth is not tied to someone else's remorse, and that your peace cannot be negotiated with gestures that lack substance. The responsibility of your heart is a sacred trust, and it is your duty to ensure that it is placed only in hands that are capable of holding it. Some people will claim readiness prematurely. They will promise, they will plead, they will implore you to believe that this time will be different. But you must remember that the readiness to honor a heart is proven in patterns, not performances. It is evident in quiet reliability, in choices made when no one is watching, in respect that persists even when it is inconvenient. An apology is only meaningful when it is the first note in a long symphony of demonstrated care, when it is a spark that lights a series of actions committed to rebuilding trust responsibly. Without that symphony, the apology is simply a note played in isolation, beautiful in sound but hollow in impact. To navigate this truth requires courage. It requires the courage to forgive without letting go of discernment, to offer compassion without surrendering boundaries, to believe in human capacity for growth without endangering your own soul. It requires the courage to listen to the voice inside that says, "This is not enough, not yet," and to honor that voice even when you are tempted by the sweetness of words. Your heart is too valuable to be placed on loan without assurance, too precious to be entrusted lightly, too sacred to be exposed to casual neglect. And when you recognize that not every apology is a sign of readiness, you step into a power that is rare and necessary, a power that allows you to navigate the world with clarity, grace, and self-respect. Walking away is not an act of anger, though it may appear so to those who do not understand the inner landscape of a wounded heart. Walking away is not a punishment. It is a declaration of worth. It is the act of looking within and recognizing that your spirit cannot thrive in the presence of repeated harm. It is the quiet, firm, unwavering decision to honor the life that courses through your veins, to protect the fragile spaces of your heart, and to refuse to let another's carelessness or cruelty dictate the terms of your peace. There is a profound difference between bitterness and self-respect. Bitterness festers in the soul, a poison that lingers and consumes. Self-respect, on the other hand, rises like a flame, warm and bright, illuminating the path forward with clarity and dignity. When you walk away from someone who has caused harm, you are not carrying resentment as a weapon. You are carrying your own integrity as a shield. You are choosing to prioritize the sanctity of your heart over the comfort of their presence. Too often society teaches us to endure, to remain, to forgive quickly, to sacrifice ourselves for the sake of relationships that demand little from the other side. We are told that love requires suffering, that loyalty means tolerance, that endurance is a virtue even when the cost is our own dignity. But there is no virtue in allowing yourself to be diminished. There is no honor in remaining in a space where your needs are ignored, your boundaries are violated, and your heart is treated as expendable. Walking away is the act of reclaiming yourself from the erosion of carelessness. It is a declaration that your time, your energy, and your soul are not for barter. It is the recognition that some people, no matter how familiar, no matter how entwined with your life, do not deserve the gift of your continued presence if they cannot treat you with respect. Walking away requires courage, for it is easier to stay and hope for change than to step into the uncertainty of absence. It is easier to endure the familiar sting than to face the unknown path of freedom. But the courage to walk away is the courage to value yourself above the opinions, the manipulations, and the expectations of others. It is the courage to say, I deserve more than this. I deserve peace. I deserve care. I deserve to exist without fear of being hurt again by someone who has already caused harm. When you make that choice, you begin to honor the life that exists within you, the dignity that belongs to you, and the spirit that cannot be compromised without your consent. Walking away is an act of self-preservation that requires recognition of your own sacredness. Many people will misunderstand your choice. They will accuse you of bitterness, of pride, of unforgivingness. They may attempt to guilt you into staying, to appeal to memories of the past, to remind you of shared history, to convince you that endurance is love. But endurance is not always love. Endurance is often the tolerance of abuse. And love cannot thrive in tolerance of harm. Walking away is not bitterness, it is clarity. It is the ability to see a relationship for what it is, to recognize the patterns of pain, and to choose a future where your heart can flourish without compromise. When you walk away, you send a message not to the other person, but to yourself that your value is undeniable, that your peace is non-negotiable, and that your heart cannot be held hostage by someone who has shown they do not care for its well-being. There is power in absence. There is freedom in distance. When you step away from someone who harms you, you create space to heal, to breathe, and to understand the lessons of your experience. The heart is a delicate organ, not only in the physical sense but in the emotional sense, and repeated exposure to harm leaves imprints that linger long after the moment has passed. By walking away, you protect your heart from further scars, you honor the memory of your resilience, and you allow the possibility of a future unburdened by the weight of repeated mistreatment. Walking away is not running, it is arriving at the recognition of your own worth, arriving at the clarity that only self-respect can bring, arriving at a life where your choices are guided by care for yourself rather than fear of conflict or desire for approval. Walking away is also an act of teaching. It teaches others how you expect to be treated. It demonstrates the boundaries you will not allow to be crossed. It communicates the sacredness of your presence and the seriousness with which you protect it. People who care for you will respect your decision, and people who do not care will reveal themselves for who they truly are. Walking away filters the noise from the authenticity, the toxicity from the genuine, and allows you to cultivate relationships that honor your spirit rather than diminish it. In this sense, walking away is not just self-respect, it is discernment, wisdom, and courage all woven into a single powerful act. It is natural to feel doubt when you choose to walk away. You may question your motives, your strength, your heart. You may worry that leaving is selfish, that leaving is harsh, that leaving is an admission of failure. But the truth is, staying in a harmful situation is far more damaging than stepping away. The heart cannot heal where it is repeatedly bruised. The spirit cannot flourish where it is consistently neglected. Walking away is not abandoning, it is choosing life, choosing health, choosing the continuation of your journey with your dignity intact. It is a declaration that you will not allow your soul to be trampled, that you will not normalize mistreatment, and that you will no longer confuse suffering with love. Walking away does not erase memories, but it changes their meaning. When you leave a hurtful person behind, the memory of the pain becomes a lesson rather than a burden. It becomes a teacher, a reminder of the boundaries you must maintain, the courage you must embrace, and the love you must first give to yourself. The act of walking away transforms the narrative from one of victimhood to one of empowerment, from one of suffering to one of clarity. It reminds you that you are not powerless, that your heart is not disposable, and that your life is too precious to be lived in fear or compromise. Self-respect is not loud or boastful. It does not demand recognition. It exists quietly, firmly, and unwaveringly within you. It is the calm knowledge that you are worthy, that you are valuable, that you deserve relationships that uplift rather than wound. Walking away is an expression of this self-respect, a manifestation of the respect you hold for yourself even when others fail to honor it. It is the gentle yet firm assertion that your life and your heart are yours to protect. And while some may misunderstand it as bitterness, those who understand will see it for what it truly is, an act of courage, wisdom, and love for oneself.